X-Men: The Last Stand is a 2006 superhero film based on the X-Men superhero team introduced by Marvel Comics. What's good is the Boy Dude Reviews, and today we're reviewing the third installment in the X-Men series. It's the sequel to X-Men 2, as well as the third overall, and was directed by Brett Ratner and written by Simon Kinberg and Zach Penn. And it features an assembled cast including Hugh Jackman, Halle Berry, Ian McKellen, Famke Jensen, Anna Paquin, Kelsey Grammer, Jason Madison, Rebecca Monjaras, Sean Ashmore, Aaron Stanford, Vinnie Jones, and Patrick Stewart. And the film script is loosely based on two X-Men comic book story arcs: the Dark Phoenix Saga, written by Chris Claremont and artist John Byrne, and Gifted by Joss Whedon, writer, and artist John Cassaday. And what is the film about? Well, the discovery of a cure for mutants leads to a turning point for the mutant world, and they may now choose to give up their powers and become fully human, or retain their uniqueness and remain isolated. War looms between the followers of Charles Xavier, who preaches tolerance, and those of Magneto, who advocates survival of the fittest. Meanwhile, Face makes a startling return, which could have the potential to destroy the world. And we know who that is. Jean. And Bryan Singer, who directed the two previous films, X-Men 1 and 2, decided to leave the work on Superman Returns, as he had not even defined the storyline for a third film. Matthew Vaughn, who was initially hired as the new director, left due to personal and professional issues and was replaced with Ratner. Filming took place from August 2005 to January 2006 with a budget of $220 million and was the most expensive film at the time of its release. It had extensive VFX created by 11 different companies. And The Last Stand released on May 26, 2006 by 20th Century Fox, and it grossed $459 million, becoming the 7th highest grossing film of 2006. It was at the time the highest grossing film in the series and the 4th highest grossing film of the franchise. Critical reception was mixed, and we gotta go talking about that. But before we talk about the mixed reception, let's just go in and talk about the good of this film. And the good of this film, I have to admit, finally, out of the first two, out of the three trilogy movies in the OG trilogy, this film finally got the action choreography right. The action sequences, in terms of like the fighting and the choreography, is so much well handled and so much well done in this movie than it has been in the previous two. Like, Wolverine is going all out psycho, and it is nice to watch. It is a delight to see it. I absolutely love seeing him just go ape shit on people, like, doesn't lie. And it's just so great to see the original cast back again. Hugh Jackman as Wolverine is always a great dude, Halle Berry, I have to admit, Storm does get more of a role in this film than in the other previous two, and I was pretty happy because I really like the Storm character. I feel like she's got a lot going on. And Ian McKellen always has a lot in these movies. He's once again the villain of the film, playing Magneto, and he's literally starting the war, and he wants to use Jean to kind of ignite the war in a way. And Famke Jensen returns as Jean Grey, and yeah, she's not really Jean, and yeah, Famke Jensen, I have to admit, despite what people think about this film, she did a really decent performance as the Phoenix, or Jean Grey, or the Phoenix. Like, she gives this really like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type of personality, of the Phoenix, and it's like, it's so weird seeing Jean Grey act like this because we're not used to Jean Grey acting like this, and it's just, I feel like her acting was so great. Her facial expressions were so emotive, and you can see the pain she was in at times, how she wanted to die because she didn't want to hurt the ones she loved. And yeah, I really like that. And Kelsey Grammer as Beast is phenomenal. I like this dude as Beast. I think he's a great addition to this role. He gives this like gruffness to him. Put in Hugh Jackman as the Wolverine to shame at in some scenes. Like, Beast is getting some of like the better lines over Wolverine. I'm like, oh, well, Wolverine, you've got a rival right now, don't you? And Sean Ashmore, I love him as Bobby, you know. Aaron Stanford, Vinnie Jones, Patrick Stewart. I love me some Patrick Stewart as Professor X. He's always great in this film. And the visual effects are an improvement in this movie, I will admit. Like, I have to admit, the visual effects are considerably better. Um, I would say the best scene in the entire film in terms of the visual effects, and I'm talking about visual effects only, was ah possibly the scene when Magneto destroys this bridge. I don't know if it's the Brooklyn Bridge or something like that. It's the Golden Gate Bridge, that's it. And the way he just kind of uses his magnetic powers, it's like, oh my gosh, this guy is powerful. And it's like, you just see how powerful this mutant is. And I like how the visual effects showcase the mutant's powers more in this film, and like, you know what, like the personality as well, you know. Like, I kind of like when Bobby was like kind of like, you know, cheering Kitty up after something happened, and they go ice skating, and he uses his ice powers to create these ice blades. And I just, little bits like that just make this film so much, you know, it just makes the X-Men so much more lovable, and it just gives it that heart and depth to it. And I have to admit, it's great. The soundtrack isn't too bad either. I was like humming to some of the, you know, beats of the song, and it was really great. And yeah, it's visually, it's decent. The casting do a good job, but sadly the script doesn't do a good job. And this is where we come straight to negatives. I'm not even talking mixed, I'm talking negatives. The script for this film is really, 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 really not good. I mean, good gravy. Good gravy. The script is absolutely not that good. And I was not a fan of like the script of this film, because the script kind of, like, I feel like this film has different writers. Like, some of the I feel like the main dudes who wrote the first two X-Men movies are gone. Like, you had your Bryan Singer, you had your David Hayter, you had your Tom DeSanto. Like, they're pretty much all gone. Zach Penn, you still have some of Zach Penn elements in it because he did some of it, but it's kind of overwashed with Simon Kinberg's writing. And I wasn't a fan of the script. And when I mean the script, I'm talking about like some of the like characters. Like, I feel like the script in this movie makes the characters act differently than how they act. Like, I'm talking about, like, I don't know, like Aaron Stanford's character, who plays this, like, I think it's Pyro. He's so much douchier in this movie, and he's very unlikable. He's a very douchey guy. Like, without, it's really hard to talk about spoilers, so I'm gonna have to give you a big fat spoiler warning. If you haven't seen this film, go and watch it now and come back to this timestamp, because I have to go to spoilers territory in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, Professor X dies, and that's a big thing. And the way this guy's like, yeah, I could have killed the professor, yeah, it's like, oh my gosh, shut up, dude. This guy. And I do have to admit, I did like how Magneto stuck up for you know, Professor X, you know, saying that Charles Xavier did more for mutants than you would ever know. That was a really good line. But the screenplay completely takes a whiz on it when Magneto later on in the film says Charles always wanted to build bridges, when he's like destroying the Golden Gate Bridge. And it's like a little jokey line, and it's like, you just respected Professor X a minute ago and now you're dissing the dude? Really? That's not cool, man. That's not cool. And Professor X himself, I have to admit, is a very angry guy in this movie. Like, not angry, but he's very pissy. He's not himself. He's not this kind of like cool, calm dude who's like, yes, here we are. He's very like, really, he's very snarky, you know. He makes these very snark comments. Like, there's a scene in the film when Logan is kind of like, you know, confronting Professor X about what he did to Jean, because Professor X did some stuff on Jean Grey's mind, and it made her the Phoenix in a way. And Logan's basically like saying that he shouldn't have done it. And Professor X is like, whoa, I don't have to explain myself to someone like you. It's like, where the heck did that come from? And even Logan was like, okay, I'm gonna leave now. And it's like, damn, that's not what Professor X is like. And the way he acts in this film, I don't know, he just doesn't feel right. And I didn't like how they killed him off. Like, they killed him and Scott off. Like, that was a bad move by the screenwriters, because I wanted more of Scott in this film. If they kept Scott alive, it would have been interesting seeing Logan and Scott probably having to, like, work together and just, like, you know, just try and help Jean. It would have been interesting, you know. I would have liked to see where the film would have gone if they kept Scott alive, but they killed him off. Why? Why? Even Bryan Singer later on did admit that he regretted not, that he was a bit disappointed that they killed certain characters off, and he had to kind of fix all that in his later film, but we'll get to that film later on in the month. But yeah, killing off characters was just a bad thing. And it's not just killing off characters, it's introducing even more characters into this film, because this film is 104 minutes long. It's not even 2 hours long, and there are so many new characters coming into this movie. I mean, you've got new Brotherhood mutants, you've got like those guys. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like, yeah. But yeah, it's people do have to admit, people do hate the Juggernaut, but I have to admit, I like the dude. I think he's funny. I think the guy is a funny guy, but people hate him, but I don't give a crap. I love that dude. I wanted to see more of the Juggernaut. I thought he was one of the best new additions to the film. I thought he was just entertaining. I would have preferred him over Pyro any day of the week, dude. And the Archangel guy doesn't really do much. He just kind of appears in the first, like, 2 minutes of the film, and he's briefly in this film, and it's like, where's Archangel? Come on, we want a bit of Archangel in this film. And he's in the poster, he's in the trailers, but he's barely in the film, my dude. My gosh. And, where's Nightcrawler? They removed Nightcrawler as well. Like, dude, yeah, it's just, they killed off and removed characters that I liked and replaced them with characters who I barely knew or didn't enjoy looking at. And I thought that was just a really, really bad idea. Like, the overuse of New Mutants was a bad call for this film. If they did that, they could have at least extended the movie, you know, but I think that was a bad idea, to be honest with you. But I have to admit, I'll give the screenplay credit. I like the idea. I like the whole idea with the cure and mutants deciding if they want to get the cure or not. And I like how the cure kind of is the thing that ignites the whole war. The idea of this film was amazing. I really do like it. And this film could have been a strong film if it was given better writers and a better director. But the way it was executed was done so poorly, to the point where I was just watching it and being like, I kind of want to switch it off, because it was so unappealing to watch. The screenwriting, the way it was going and the direction it was going just didn't make any sense. And then by the end of the film, you just realize, was this film even necessary? Because it's like, yeah, this film was a really, really, really disappointment, you know. I would have been disappointed if I saw this film in the cinema, but it's nice seeing your old cast, and yeah, it's not the last time we'll see the original cast. Yeah, there's another film later on in the future. But yeah, X-Men The Last Stand has better visuals than the first two movies, an interesting idea, but terribly, terribly, terribly executed, with a poor script that completely retcons the characters of the previous films and situations. And for that, I have to admit, I'm going to have to give X-Men The Last Stand a C, and I have to give it a 6 out of 10, just because of that. But I'm so happy that the movies of the X-Men movies do get better in the future. But before we get better, we still have one more sludge of a film to get through, and oh boy, that's going to be tough. But thank you for watching this review. Please like, share the video, comment down below, and tell me, what's your favourite X-Men movie? With that said, thank you for watching. As always, a Boy Dude Review signing out.